can't say with certainty where the idea for this sculpture came from. The carved surface was definitely inspired by a couple of artists I came across on Instagram. Links to them are in the description. As for the rest, well, my brain said to make it, so I did. I can't argue with that guy, he knows my every thought. I started with 2 panels of 3/4 inch maple. I knew that I wanted to use very pale, almost white wood. Once on the lathe, watch out dummy, I turned the panels to a pair of matching domed discs. Yes, I should definitely invest in a set of larger tools. With this side view you can see what I'm going for. The discs are 12 inches in diameter and about 1/4 inch thick on the very edge. Then I did what most woodworkers would consider sacrilege. I used India ink to dye the entire surface of one of the discs. I know, I felt a little sick about it too. I didn't have a very specific design in mind. I wanted a general outline of what the carving should look like. I went for a cross between a sun, a bloodshot eye, and plant tendrils, and drew the outline. The idea is to carve away parts of the dyed surface and reveal the undyed wood underneath. The carving was done using a Dremel flex shaft attachment and a few different burrs from cut saw tools. Links in the description. Our carving notoriously generates a lot of dust, and you can see that on display here. Using a brush will help somewhat, but having a vacuum on hand is much better. I eventually wisened up. The wood fibers really soaked up the India ink, with a good amount of variation across the disc. I didn't really expect that, but I like how even more organic it makes the piece look. Phase 1 done, on to phase 2. I followed the same freehand approach, keeping it organic yet vaguely symmetrical. I'm showing you a close-up of the burr and the small, shallow scoops I'm carving out of the wood as I follow my design outline. I'm doing the carving on this rubberized white pad, which I think is a shelf or drawer liner. It's great because it won't let the piece move as you carve. It's also terrible because if the speeding bit touches it, the bit will catch and break the flex shaft. In 3, 2, 1, now. But if crafting teaches us anything, it teaches us to accept our failures as well as our successes with quiet dignity and grace.
I don't want to live. I do not want to live.
Quiet dignity and grace.
Oh, Mama.
I eventually replaced the flex shaft and continued with the carving, but it means some of the remaining footage is slightly out of order. I randomly changed the burrs to vary the texture across the discs. Here's a close-up of the ball-shaped burr and the kind of texture it produces. This time around, I dyed the sections I carved away. It's a lot easier to see how the wood fibers really soak up and wick away the India ink. Hopefully you can see that flow across the wood in this zoomed in shot. And now for some structural work for this sculpture. I cut out a disc made of pine and used a bandsaw to cut out a channel that would hold the main vertical support. That support is a steel tube with a notch cut into it. I used a Gorilla epoxy stick to epoxy the tube into the channel. I wanted the faces of the sculpture to be attached to the inner disc with magnets, just in case I ever needed to fix anything. I drilled through the inner disc to create alignment holes for the magnets. I used a Forstner bit to create recesses for the magnets. And 5-minute epoxy to fix the magnets into the recesses. Onto the base. I used a section of a 2x4 to get a rough idea of what size the base should be. That turned out to be about 8 inches on its longest side. Something like this. I didn't film the construction of the base, but it's very simple if needlessly overbuilt. A few pieces of 3/4 inch plywood screwed together with an absurd number of wood screws. I grabbed the nearest, really only kind of filler I had on hand and used it to cover the screw heads. I also drilled a hole for the steel support in the middle of the base, achieving a good amount of tear out in the process. As annoying as that is, at least it won't be visible in the final build. And here's the first look at the main structure. It looks somewhat delicate but felt sturdy enough to proceed. I wanted the base to have the appearance of raw concrete, fairly industrial and rough in texture. I used a few craft acrylic paints to achieve that look. Note that I'm paying precisely zero attention to achieving a uniform color or texture. I'm getting close now. I first cut out a flexible silicone channel that will surround the inner disc and will be flush with the outside faces. I snaked a chip-on board LED strip through the notch in the steel pipe, then through the flexible channel, and made sure that the setup worked. The effect is a very uniform and warm light, just what I was looking for. After applying some double-sided tape to the edge of the inner disc, sticking the channel to the disc, and some rudimentary wiring, it was time for the glamour shots. Thank you for watching. Here is Janus, the two-faced Roman god of beginnings and endings.